right, let's talk a little bit about the way the general election is shaping up, which, there's very little drama at this point within the Democratic primary. There's very little drama at this point within the Republican primary. But the general election is shaping up to be one of the most unusual, odd, historic, whatever word you want to put on it that you can imagine. Put this up on the screen. I cannot understand why this has not gotten more coverage. Take a look. Okay, so I'll go through all of these. This is a new national general election poll. So if it's head-to-head, they've gotten, this is Quinnipiac, they've got Biden and Trump basically tied. Biden's got a 1-point edge. Then you throw RFK Jr. onto the ballot, and the Biden lead edges up a bit. Biden 39, Trump 36, Kennedy 22. I mean, that is a lot, guys. That is really, really significant. And then they also did one, if you add Cornel West into the mix, then you go back to Biden with a 1-point lead, 36, Trump 35, Kennedy 19, Cornel West at 6. Now, I don't know how many ballots Cornel West is going to be able to get on. He's changed what party he's affiliated with a couple times. So I think there's a lot of questions about whether people are going to even really have the option of Cornel West on their ballot. But whether or not he is there, RFK Jr., listen, I don't have a lot of intel into how well organized his campaign is, et cetera, but I know he's got a lot of money. So I think it is very feasible that he ends up on the ballot in most, if not all, states. And right now, he's pulling 22%. Now, I'll put out the caveat that I always do with regard to third parties. Usually their support is higher initially than later on. He also, within the Democratic primary, he suffered. The more people got to know his positions and see him out there, that's possible that that happens with the general electorate as well. The numbers of who he takes from, that could all shift, et cetera, et cetera. But that he's clocking 20+% right out of the gates, and he's a Kennedy, and he's got a lot of money, people ought to be taking notice.
Let me read this direct quote, actually. Let's put this please up on the screen from Quinnipiac that they say, quote, "With minority and younger voters seeming intrigued, Kennedy, for now, enjoys the kind of demographic support his charismatic father and uncles generated decades ago, aka it is disaffected minorities and it is younger voters who usually skew left and who want at least some sort of different option who are going RFK for now." Now, listen, it's possible that things could change. My advice for RFK, honestly, would just be keep doing what you're doing. Keep a low profile. The less people honestly know about you, the better, because then they can just project. Seriously, they can just project whatever they want onto you. They're like, oh, he's a Kennedy, and he doesn't like the two-party system.
He's not Biden or Trump.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's a great pitch, just so people are aware. And it's funny, because even a lot of his communications that I'm looking at, I'm like, this is brilliant, because most of it, for example, this is an infographic. Half the electorate no longer identifies with any political party. 63% of Americans want an independent run for president. What is politics going to look like when it's no longer us versus them? RFK Jr. I love it. And it's got a picture of him looking yoked in a Western shirt and wearing jeans in the sun. That's all you need. It's just you keep things at a level where it's like it's not even really what you're running on. It's you're running against the two-party system. It's like it's like negative partisanship but weaponized against both, which is a brilliant pitch. And to put it in historical perspective, Ross Perot, probably the most successful third-party candidate of our time, won 19% of the vote. So including Cornel West in the general election ballot, which in my opinion is not really fair, because if Cornel does not get all 50, but RFK is on all 50 states and actually does have the ballot operation, and it will really just be between the three of them, he could be the most successful third-party candidate in, decades, since maybe George Wallace, Ross Perot. I mean, his name would be all the way up there. And then it becomes a very open question of how much is this going to affect the race? I mean, in terms of the numbers, it does look like he draws a little bit more away from Trump than he does from Biden, but he does also draw a decent amount from Biden. And it's one of those where, look, even Arab Americans, we're going to talk with James Oxby soon. I'm curious to hear what he thinks. I know RFK is supportive of Israel, but again, most people probably don't even know what he thinks about Israel. So they might just vote for him as a protest candidate. And I could easily see that with younger people, with Arab Americans. I mean, it could just be one of those like Hail Mary, screw it type of things. And you never know. I mean, he could win a state or two. It's very possible. if that happened.
I want to see some state level polling, swing state level polling. Like, what do Pennsylvanians think about you? What does Michigan think about you? Michiganders, isn't that what they are?
I think so.
What do Minnesotans think about you? Like, I want to see some of that swing state polling and where the strength is. It'd be interesting to see where the strength is regionally as well. I mean, I've been pitching internally here that we need to do a focus group.
We're doing it.
Of
RFK
RFK voters, because there is so little analysis so far of like, who are they? What draws them to him? What do they know about? How engaged are they? What sort of media are they consuming? I'm absolutely fascinated by who this group is. And you're right. Like, on Israel, he is lockstep. He's probably more hawkish than Biden on Israel. I mean, it seems very like personal and ideological and whatever. He's all in. So it's not like there's any real daylight between him and Biden or Trump for that matter on the issue, but people don't really know. Like, they don't follow it that closely. So if they just have this vague feeling of like, he's a Kennedy and he's different, like, sure, he's not Biden, I don't like Biden, he's not Trump, I don't like Trump, why not? There was a Politico analysis to the point of like who he's drawing from currently. This guy really, I mean, I think it's very likely he ends up being the deciding factor. How his campaign goes ends up deciding who the next president is. So he's collecting checks, Politico says, from past Donald Trump donors at a much higher rate than former Biden contributors, a sign he may be pulling more from the Republican electorate than Democratic voters. But he also is being financed in terms of contributions by huge numbers of people who have never given politically before, which also makes sense. People who, are responding to his anti-Democrat, anti-Republican message and are activated by that. And that's not only a very difficult group to get engaged, it's also a very difficult group to poll.
Yes.
They tend to be the ones that sort of fall out of traditional surveys. So anyway, that is very fascinating. There was also, just as a note, in that same poll, they tested the Democratic primary race now that you have the addition of Dean Phillips, that Minnesota moderate representative, and Cenk Uygur. And they find, I mean, this isn't all that surprising. So 77% support Biden. Marianne gets 8%. Dean Phillips gets 6%. And Cenk gets 2%. So, I mean, it basically looks like Cenk and Marianne are pulling from the same pool of like 10% of voters. And then Dean Phillips is getting 6%. It kind of tracks with what I was expecting, basically.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a surprise. I think RFK, as you said, he is now the absolute deciding factor. How he runs his campaign, who he appeals to, and if he can get more than that, I mean, he's starting now. Basically he's starting at 19 to 22%, something like that. And he hasn't even really campaigned. So the more the people hear about him, the more people pay attention. He's got a choice. My thing is you just keep leaning into that anti-two-party message. I mean, who knows? We could go triple. Like if we go 33%, 33%. He's only got, he doesn't have, that far away. And then next thing you know, he could be in a head-to-head race. It would be absolutely shocking. I truly have no idea. But honestly, it's kind of fun. This will be a nice shock to the political system that people need.
Some intrigue.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.